Moving on, it's time for the first panel discussion of the day. And the topic is Building Trust in Finance. Navigating regulatory challenges in embedded finance, security, and privacy in finance ecosystems, addressing the security challenges associated with embedded finance, including fraud detection, identity verification, and data protection. Regulatory landscape for embedded finance, understanding the regulatory challenges and opportunities surrounding fintech, including compliance, data privacy, and consumer protection. It's time to invite our session moderator for this session. Vinayak Godse, CEO of DSCI, is a visionary leader driving cybersecurity excellence. With a wealth of expertise, he spearheads initiatives ensuring DSCI remains at the forefront of safeguarding digital ecosystem. Please put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, as I invite our session moderator on stage, Mr. Vinayak Godse. Thank you, sir. Next up, leading large cross functional at multiple locations across the globe, implementation of the product security strategy, organizational framework on cybersecurity, GDPR, data protection and privacy, secure software development, and go to market. This is what is all about our speaker one in the panel discussion. Please put your hands together as I invite Mr. Suresh Sharma, Chief Information Security Officer, PayU Payments, on stage, please. Next up, we have Jiss has been instrumental in merging agility and innovation to the product and service offerings from Concerto. A technology enthusiast, Jiss keeps himself updated with the latest trends in the fintech domain. Jiss has contributed substantially to transaction processing and switching industry during his career. Please put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, as I invite our second speaker on stage, Jiss Jose, Director, Concerto Software and Systems Private Limited. Let's have a huge round of applause. I'm sure we're very, very charged up with the tea and coffee, and of course, this wonderful session before this. Over to you, sir.
Thanks for those generous introduction for all of us. So, after the exciting session, we are talking about something complex, something very, something concern, but also something which is creating opportunity for at least some section of people. Like so, the financial ecosystem we are seeing the kind of transformation that we have seen in this country for last 4 5 years of time, right? So, digitization. There are three key narration until now. One is what we see in US, where private sector innovation led, startup led innovation, which has brought a lot of transformation there. We also seen the China, which is more government control innovation digitization, and we also know Europe is more like a rights driven innovation or approach to digitization basically. In our case, we brought this architectural intervention named Aadhaar first and then UPI, and which has brought the way the transformation can happen, right? We brought this entire digital payment ecosystem on high value, low volume to low value, high volume kind of ecosystem, right? And the kind of transactions that we are processing per month, no country can come close to the kind of transaction and kind of digitization that we have made it possible in financial sector. Now we are with that experiment, we are now looking at other sectors as well to go to some same kind of journey basically. So this narration that we have created and this view and approach that we have given to the world also creates a lot of challenges for security and privacy. And we are talking this particular session in the context of new digital personal data protection bill, which got approved in parliament and assented by president. So we have two of the speaker here. So one is look at the software and ecosystem that you have been building and from fintech perspective, and Suresh, a good friend from the financial, who is leading those, who is probably enabling those kind of finances, right? And we have seen until now it was more digital, but now we are going to all of those possible things and making it sure that we are helping them to enable the transaction basically. And we are probably going to more physical in nature, more those kind of environment, which probably are not thought about in terms of initiating and executing transaction basically. So in that context, would like to really first of all dwell into the security privacy issue, then probably product management issue, and towards the end we'll also try to look at what kind of opportunity the security and privacy challenges creates for all of us basically. So I'd like to start with Suresh. So so how do, as a payment, one of the key leading India plus global payment providers, how do you see the transition that we are seeing in last 2 3 years of time and then challenges bring to the security and privacy perspective.
Uh, I hope you can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, it's not an easy journey. If you say, you ask an Indian, stop using the currency, the cash, and start going to the. Can you?
You have to,
Okay, fantastic.
yeah.
So, it's not an easy thing for an Indian if you ask him that, I have cash, but now you are forced to use a card or an app. Our problem was actually helped by the governments, and we were able to achieve this. But the biggest problem was something else, guys. How many of us actually buy fruits from a vendor? We call them thela walas. How many of you guys actually buy that? Correct. Vinayak sir, the interesting piece is in the morning when he actually fills that thela, they take it on credit because they don't have money, right? And with COVID, we all started moving on the transactions, which is UPI based. Our basic problem is following. Imagine if he gets hacked, you know what will happen to him? His entire day earning is gone, plus he will be having a credit, correct? He might not be having sufficient funds to run his family. That's the state we have, right? So, how we see business, we call it as money moving business. How we see business, more of a responsibility for people that their transaction become much money more and more secure and more end to end, no communication, no interruption. I think that is how we see as a business, sir.
Yeah. So this entire transformation that we see in digitization perspective, right? In a way, we one is the architecture intervention UPI, which brought a lot of conventional legacy player as well, which also get a lot of those fintech which is playing role, and even some big organization like Google and Facebook is also seen doing transaction and initial transaction basically. So transaction processing is so unbundled in India, so it's made it very participatory and democratized as well, and which provides quite a significant opportunity for a fintech provider or a lot of those capability provider basically. So how do you see this ecosystem if I had to see from the perspective of the security and privacy, because the unbundled way of transaction processing where so many third parties, vendors, and systems come into picture. So the equation of managing security and privacy will be quite significantly difficult, right?
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think in today's ecosystem is extremely complex in nature. We have numerous partners, their resources, their systems participating in one single transaction processing itself. Um, for example, to open a bank account, starting from the banking correspondent to numerous other partners, banks partners are also involved in that particular transaction processing itself. So the data is collected at various touch points and it is shared with the among the partners also. So it becomes very difficult for, or the biggest challenge that the or any organization nowadays faces to discover the data. It is to identify where all the data is lying. It may be lying in multiple databases, files, or many other places for that matter. So it is important for them to discover the data. So we help with our products, software products, to discover the data, classify that data, and then convert it into a token. So the data, if it is protected at the source itself or in its database itself, even if there is a security breach, it becomes meaningless for the thief or whoever has got that data. So our solution is an enterprise-wide tokenization solution, which is a stateless, vaultless application. It integrates or it works on a technology called intercept technology. What it means is that without making any changes to the existing application or to its database, we can seamlessly integrate this application and protect the data. So that's what we do. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Suresh, we had seen the great demo of what phone can do, right? Yeah,
Yes.
that's a great demo. But somewhere in 2013-14, people realized that phone can help you to initiate the transaction or transfer the message securely, basically. And that's why phone started making relevance to the payment transaction industry. So that's why I think 2014-15, government of India brought a concept of jam strategy. So there is a jam strategy which is centered around mobile basically, and how the mobile will play a role basically, right? So, and then we had seen significant kind of transformation, and QR code made all of those kind of possibilities in India. But now we are talking about beyond phone as well. So there's a watch is there, that of those physical systems are there, right? So for example, in industry environment, there is a machine which captures data, and from there it can also initiate the transaction. So this embedded finance that we are talking about, going beyond the phone basically, are there any experimentation that you are also seeing from your perspective?
Um, so I think, fundamentally, we are not changing a lot of things. We are just changing the medium. I think eventually we will move away from the phone altogether. We might see something like you can actually tap your watch and you can make the payments.
Yeah.
That is possible. A payment without pins, that is possible because, uh, and this is only because fundamentally we are already there. So the foundation building blocks are already there. Now, what is foundation building blocks? Basically, the country's infrastructure is already ready. All you have to do is to fix the limit of the amount, and you can actually do a payment without the pin.
Yeah.
Uh, I think we are already living that.
Yeah, FASTag is a good example of that, right? It's
Correct.
not phone, right? It's just one
Yes,
something which is you picks up in a car and it automatically
correct.
does the payment. Yeah.
Correct. So I think eventually we might actually see that you can decide whether which part of your body you want to be authenticated,
Yeah.
and that is going to be much more easy for you, maybe.
Yeah.
So I still believe on cash transactions, but yes, that is going to be happening, I'm sure. I
Yeah.
think the challenging piece is I want my father's face to be recognized as a payment medium, right?
So, but so enabling this, right? And this is being a technology summit or conference here. So enabling this is to work with a lot of
Yep.
fintech players, right? A lot of innovators, a lot of those possible capability providers, basically. Sometimes cloud also come into picture. Sometimes you have to also, for example, if a vehicle has to be initiate the payment. So then the vehicle OEMs, somebody who is
Correct.
putting that final product as a vehicle will also get into picture, right? And then a
Right.
lot of those third party vendors and products and system will come into picture basically. So my question is now, if you have to really look at the security, but I'm also looking from the fraud side basically. So
Right.
as many of those ecosystem will come into picture, it also creates a lot of those footprint which can be exploited for a new modus operandi in fraud, right?
So fundamentally, again, we are trying to say we will integrate the entire ecosystem,
Yeah.
be it any industry. Uh, yes, that is something which is actually a vision. We are still not there. But if you ask me, yes, you're right. There are a lot of uh, experiments going on where we can actually start integrating the fintech spaces with the healthcare spaces, and I think we are doing that, if you ask me, in bits and pieces. But if I can answer you partially, uh, we are in the middle of that transformation. Maybe by next year when we'll meet again, we'll see that some pieces are already running with healthcare. I'm sure about that, but the other pieces will follow.
Yeah. While you do all those innovations and enable all those things, right? But at the same time, the compliance requirement initially from security perspective, but because of now digital personal data protection bill that we have, and there are other geographies also GDPR. So just what do you see the kind of pressure and obligations and liability that your clients are facing with the security and privacy regulation and some of the risks that also getting materializes now? So what kind of conversation that you have with the client discussing about security, privacy, and fraud management?
Right. I think we have to portion profit in a particular transaction itself. One is the acquiring side of the story,
Yeah.
where um, the front end channels are involved, be it mobile or ATM, POS, and internet websites and stuff. And we also have the backend systems where you have the credit card accounts or the prepaid account or the debit card account, and nowadays your cryptocurrencies and much more, right? So to protect the transaction, that both the ends needs to be protected. The data during the transit, during while at rest, and also at backup. On the at rest or during the transaction processing, in the issuer side, we have measures in place to proactively monitor the transactions in terms of risk, from where it is coming, and whether it is meeting all those parameters before issuing the transaction. And based on those parameters, I'm sure many of you have received calls from the banks to verify whether you are the one who is actually doing those transactions. And also nowadays, to protect the front end ones, we see the OTPs or many other second factor authentication, which is coming in picture. Thereby, and we are also moving into the next level of seamless transaction processing by using the fingerprinting of the devices or many other factors. And using all those, banks or financial institutions are well ahead of the curve, and they are able to protect most of the times. I think there are standards and guidelines also in place, which is set by the PCI or EMICO or many others. If organizations across industry decides to um, comply to or adopt all those measures, I think that transaction can be much more
But
profitable.
but do you think this rising obligation of security and now privacy, which talks about almost 250 crore plus kind of liability, and also there is another challenge there ki if if this thing doesn't get solved, they can government also has power to withdraw access to your application. So these liabilities are now creating some kind of hesitation with the client that you work in terms of talking to you or getting uh, some of the service capability with you. So do you think that conversation is a little bit now started happening because of DPDP Act?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
It becomes, for example, I was talking to the insurance sector the other day, where so many of their partner companies are involved in starting from filling the application for the insurance to settlement of the funds, right? So in the entire process, various challenges that they face, data is getting shared, and it is even the courier person who's
Yeah.
delivering the
Yeah.
policy is also collecting a lot of
Yeah.
information, and
Yeah.
it becomes the ownership lies with the institution who is responsible to
Mm.
collect which is
Yeah.
ultimately the insurance company. Various, I mean, the current way of processing needs to be changed, and also all their systems needs to undergo a lot of tokenization or many other facts. And with the DPDP Act, I think the entire responsibility lies on the organization to
Yeah.
protect the data. I think traditionally we share a lot of information, which I think, according to me, the organization should be collecting only the very minimum information that is required. And whatever data that is collected needs to be handled with utmost care, right?
Yeah.
So those measures, I think, across the industry now, people have started taking serious concerns of the few points in the DPDP Act. I think taking consent and uh, minimum only collect only minimum required data and ensure that that collected data is used only for that particular purpose, and also fixing the responsibility in terms of making sure through adjudication or
Yeah.
through penalties, etc. I think across industry data will
Yeah.
be protected.
You say underlying supply chain of transaction processing is so becoming complex and complex. So how do you share the responsibility and ownership of security privacy is not that critical, right? So it's very difficult in terms of creating that equation and make sure that you,
Actually, you know what? I'll give you an example.
yeah,
Uh, if you all allow me, I think I'll just ask a question to everybody. Um, how about, let's say we are 100 people in this room. How about if your Aadhaar cards are leaked versus all your WhatsApp accounts are leaked? Which privacy is more critical for you?
yeah.
Okay, let's say, how about my wife opens my WhatsApp message? Which privacy is gonna be more critical, my Aadhaar card or WhatsApp?
It's very contextual, I know. Yeah. So Suresh, one important question which I want to ask you, right?
Yeah.
Um, because you enable the payment, right? And it's
Yeah.
mostly B2B context. You help a lot of merchants, and there are lakhs and millions of merchants. You probably enable them to pay
Yeah.
digitally, right? So now these obligations are there, right? And those merchants could be very small. Yeah, even recently seen one temple which put a website and they have the payment gateway where you can donate online to the temple basically. So
Correct.
such kind of very diverse set of the merchants you have, and at the end
As
of day they have to also, because at the end of they will be
yeah.
collecting information, right?
Right.
So how do you make sure the entire ecosystem uh, uh,
Uh,
adheres these ethical norms that we have been setting as a part of the regulation?
it's actually an excellent question, guys. You understand exactly the question is, uh, there is a, so for us everybody is merchant, right? So now imagine a merchant is a temple where we'll just go scan the QR and donate. That's actually easy part, right?
Yeah.
uh, Imagine if a temple is not getting donation, what will happen? A temple can actually be the same QR code can also be put at the pan store, can also be put at the sweet shop, and can be put at multiple
Yeah.
places, right? So what happens is these kind of frauds have increased so much that now we are forced to start teaching people that in their own language, that how to actually use your QR code, what is privacy, what is security. Uh, Hacking of your WhatsApp is not going to breach anything to you, right? It's just a reputational loss. But
Yeah.
the only loss which is going to happen is which is a financial loss. We have to teach the people, and I think so we started talking in more on this storytelling, more on the telling people, what is more critical, you lose your wallet or you lose your phone. People say phone, then you have to say no, 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 wallet is important. Phone you will still buy. So I think we are in India and we have to keep on teaching, keep on insisting that what is more important, what is not. For in case of temples, the challenge is, or this example, the challenge is, if this if you actually do not monitor the transaction, it can actually lead to anti-money laundering activities as well. So you being in the middle layer where you actually move the money, you have to have, like just actually mentioned the right point, you have to have multiple checkpoints in the place while the money is in transit. From where is it coming, what is the amount, who is going to be receiving, then the guy who is actually sending the money, is it the guy who is sending on a regular interval. uh, if I can give an example, I have a temple and I am getting donations of $30,000 per month. That's not a temple, I'm sure. Right.
Yeah.
Correct. So this is how the entire process is, and then we have to keep on.
Yeah. So, and then we are talking about 10 billion number of transactions just we are processing almost per month, and we'll be scaling up that quite significantly because we are talking about digitization next phase, which is like how to increase these 3 to 4 times more per month, basically, right? And as Suresh talked about, every transaction needs to be seen whether it is fraudulent transaction or not, and that has to also happen. That is a real time, right? If your initial transaction, if the experience of executing the transactions goes down, people do not come to the platform. That's one part. Secondly, if it leads to the fraud, people will be also the trust on the digital way would also significantly go down, basically. So how do you make sure that the speed at which it should go, the experience that we are providing, and at the same time security and privacy and all the aspects are also taken care of?
Right. I think, you know, in one single transaction itself, as I said, so many legs it has to go through, including the security aspects and many other things. So if we are able to build systems and test it in India, the volume that, you are ready for the entire world. Um, so when we were doing transactions using the cards on the electronic delivery channels, we have seen frauds initially maybe 15 years back, and we don't see that kind of for frauds in those channels nowadays. And those channels have come up with adequate measures and guidelines, and there were pressures on the financial institutions to follow those or meet those measures. Similarly, when we started off with the QR code or mobile-based ones, we still have those challenges in those ecosystems. But over a period of time, I think we would definitely reach there. To me, the system's capacity building is not an issue, and even we have helped institutions to test the capacity even before going live, right? I mean, what is the capacity that the systems can handle? And of course, we are working with the major banks in India. So, uh, yeah.
Yeah. But Suresh, once you solve, for example, we try to keep watch and the modus operandi and what kind of modus operandi is coming. Once you try to solve one, some new would come, right? Because the footprint is so large now and so many different ways that people are initiating and executing transaction, basically, right? So there's an entire industry, and we have seen, even we had something like a Jamtara is a web series which is talking about this industry, right? So every day is a new modus operandi that we come across, basically, right? So means the arrangement that you have for security and product management has to be always a moving target for you, basically. So how do you make sure that okay, every day there is a lot of investment that you are providing and understanding, and entire ecosystem is responding for that?
Uh, okay, that's actually business secret, but
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
so so guys, there are lots and lots of checks and balances we put when we say, okay, let's see how the fraud happens first. Okay, that let's talk from that angle,
Yeah.
and then we can actually think about how we do it. Uh, so we Indians, we are very entrepreneurial. We know exactly which part of the city is having the biggest sale going on and on which brand. So, it's like this. My mom does a shopping when there is a sale season happening. So now this is how the Indians are. Now, the frauds and hacks are also very, very innovative. Like you gave the Jamtara point. So what we do is we do monitoring on entire landscape. We extensively use artificial intelligence capabilities because you're right, we cannot monitor all the transactions, right? So when we onboard a merchant, like exactly when we get into the airport, what we are go through, I mean, what we go through is actually an experience like a prisoner, correct? They actually scan us that we are going to bomb the airport. No, we are not. So that's exactly what we also do when we onboard a merchant. So we call it as merchant onboard activity. We do the entire checks and balance of the merchant because we don't want to be called as, you carried something which belongs to a blacklisted person. uh, but you know what, this is just, we talked about the monitoring, the checks and balance of a merchant onboarding. But there are multiple other things. There are certain transactions like 1 rupee transaction.
Yeah.
There are certain transactions which are actually 0 rupee transactions. And now what happens is these are the transactions which are actually not happening because they want to hit the gateways. No, like I said, Indians are entrepreneurial. So what they do basically is, uh, there is a company who want to tell it to the investors that, hey, I am having a good traffic now, but from where will they get the traffic? So they generate the traffic. Now for us, my teams, what they do is they actually stop such kind of dubious traffic. They say, you know what, this is bots, just chuck it out.
Yeah.
So, there are tons of monitorings, tons of checks and balances. Even a rupee, when it passes through, it goes through a different channels. I think that's how we handle
Yeah.
it.
So this all means, and probably that is my last question, both of you, right? So these challenges, complexity, and the scale at which these challenges are working, right? And this is still early stage of digitization that we see. We'll see many more scalable thing in the future, and a lot of interventions are being brought by the government to make it happen, basically, right? So this also tells us that these are challenges, right, which requires technology intervention. This requires a lot of innovation, basically. So also creates a lot of opportunity for somebody which is in data science, artificial intelligence, or any other technology which helps you to solve these problems better. So my last question is, what kind of opportunity throws to somebody innovating, somebody is building some solution, somebody providing some services, more importantly, technology solutions, I say.
I think the biggest technology which we are actually trying to look at is how we can actually leverage the capabilities of AI,
Hmm.
so that they can think that is going to be a
Yeah.
difficult piece, but once it is there, we will be in a position to at least do a pattern matching.
Yeah.
So we can actually say, if you onboard certain specific merchants, this is going to happen. Maybe we can also say if certain transactions which are coming like this, AI can take the decision on its own.
Yeah.
We should be moving in a direction where we can actually make this entire gateway as more autonomous, not running on a manual interventions altogether. I think we should be, able to solve the problem.
Just
Okay, I think earlier it used to be a request and response for a transaction.
yeah, yeah,
Now that is not it's not anymore. It's a multi-legged transaction. It is fetching a lot of information from various systems, and it is all integrated and embedded nowadays. And monitoring of all those transactions and the value also, like starting from, as we said, 1 rupee to um, um, good number of transactions. So AI is taking some of those jobs. It is no more possible for anybody to manually monitor all this programmatically. Otherwise, also it is done. So in some cases it is a AI, or in some cases
yeah.
it is robotic process automation. All that is stepping in to protect the security
Yeah.
interest of the transaction.
So I know this topic is very important. And no matter how much time you have, you still have a lot to discuss. But in the interest of time, we would like to close this. But hope we could able to unveil some of the aspects that are important from the finance and transaction security, and privacy, and fraud management perspective. To make that happen, please join me to give big hand to my panelists here, Suresh and Jiss. Thank you for coming and joining. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for such an interesting panel discussion. Thank you to our session moderator for facilitating it so beautifully. So, if I can request Mr. Vinayak to kindly step forward and felicitate our speaker, Suresh Sharma, please. Thank you. And if I can request Mr. Vinayak once again to give away the token of gratitude to Jiss Jose, please. And I will do the honors for our session moderator.